The topic this morning will be guilt. Guilt is a term that is quite popularly used in our world. And in the typical psychological meaning of guilt, we experience guilt because of things that we've done that we believe we should not have done, or experience guilt over things we have not done that we feel we should have done. In other words, guilt is almost always associated, if not exclusively, with the body, with the individual person. Whether we talk about the body as a psychological body or the actual physical body. So we feel guilty not only for our actions or behavior, but we also feel guilty for our thoughts, past or present. When the Course talks about guilt, however, it's talking about quite a different phenomenon. It's using guilt in a much larger context, because the guilt that Jesus does discuss in the Course in Miracles is of the mind. And so it's impossible to talk about what guilt is and what it isn't without also recognizing that we are not bodies, but we are minds. What our bodies do, or our bodies think and feel, that seems to engender guilt is simply the projection of a decision that the mind has made to join with the wrong teacher. When we choose to join with the ego, it is impossible not to experience guilt. And since we do not know that we are minds, we take the guilt that our minds have made real, project it out, and then it becomes that we feel guilty because, again, of thoughts we have, feelings we have, behaviors we've exhibited, etc. Or still further, we project the guilt from our minds onto some other body, some other person's body, and then we fall prey to what the attraction of guilt section under the first obstacle to peace in the text talks about. We send out these hungry dogs of fear to find guilt in everyone and everything else. But the bottom line in all of this is the attempt to escape from the guilt that we have first made real in our mind. So let's look for a moment of why the guilt is so inevitable once we choose the ego. Choosing the ego as our teacher instead of the Holy Spirit or Jesus is a reflection of the original choice, when we basically told God that his love was not sufficient for us, that we wanted something other. We wanted a self, and we wanted a world, and we wanted a love that was other and opposite to the love that he created and the self that he created. The ego labels this thought of separating from God and seeking to establish a personal identity and self. The ego labels this as sin and tells us that we not only have done something to God, but this is sinful, because in order to establish our individual and separate existence, we have to say perfect oneness no longer exists, because oneness and separation are mutually exclusive states and they cannot coexist. And so by asserting our individual self, what the Course later on speaks of as specialness, what we are saying is that oneness is an illusion and does not exist, and that therefore constitutes an attack on God, and we will always feel guilty for our attack thoughts. And so once we believe that we have separated, we will accuse ourselves of sin, and therefore guilt is inevitable. Guilt then says, not only have I done something that is awful and terrible, but I am something awful and terrible. So guilt is not only something that is part of what my behavior is or thinking is, it is something that is now inextricably woven into the fabric of my existence. The very fact that I think I exist and have such thoughts is saying that indeed I have separated from God, therefore I am guilty of sin and deserve to be punished. This is what guilt is in A Course in Miracles. It's the thought that I have done something that is beyond forgiveness, that deserves only to be punished. And there's no way of eradicating this guilt from my mind, except through projection. And this of course, is the ego's very maladaptive and magical solution to the problem of guilt. It doesn't tell us that guilt has not occurred or that guilt is not deserving. It simply says guilt is not present in your mind, it is now present in someone else's. And this then is the source of all attack thoughts that we have, all judgments, both on a personal level as well as a collective level. It is the attempt to get rid of the guilt that the ego has told us is real, by no longer seeing it within our minds, in fact, no longer recognizing we have a mind, seeing it instead all around us, everywhere except in us. And when we talk about except in us, I am not referring to the body, because certainly we do harbor all kinds of guilt thoughts, as I mentioned at the beginning, but the guilt is no longer experienced in the mind. It is experienced outside, either in my body or in your body, or obviously in the end it's in both. What this means is that if the guilt is no longer seen in my mind and I no longer know I have a mind, the original decision for it remains intact. And so, therefore, we're condemned to be forever creatures roaming this world, overwhelmed with our guilt, and destined then to see the guilt in everyone else and to attack it.